Hello, this is Tom Hanneman here again. Thank you very much for watching and joining me. Now, this video is one of a series in which I present the transformation of the resumes of several clients across different sectors, different industries, and people at different levels of seniority and experience. So in these videos, I'll be discussing the issues that have been causing them to miss out on interviews for great opportunities. And that's in fact the reason that these people came to me in the first place, because they were submitting their resume and unfortunately they were missing out on opportunities that are unlikely to come around again for several years. And once I've discussed the issues that were in their resume that was causing them to miss out, I'll present the new version of their resume and talk through what it is that we did to elevate it to the level it needed to be. Now, bear in mind that the real names and contact details and the names of the organisations in which these people have worked have not been revealed. So I just wanted to now share my screen for the first person. Now, this person is a chief financial officer. And as I mentioned, he was unable to secure interviews or enough interviews for the right kinds of positions that he was interested in. Yes, he got some interviews, but they weren't for the type of role that that he was really after. So let's have a look at his current resume. So this is exactly as he sent it to me, except obviously the names have been changed. So the first thing that you'll notice is that he's talked about his, he said that he's an Australian and nationality, and that's fine. But based on a very quick glance of his resume, he's got CPA Australia, and went to the University of West Sydney, and so on. So it's pretty clear that this person's Australian, and there's, well, you know, he could be from overseas, but if you go on the second page of resume, you'll see that it's an Australian company that he's worked with. So it's probably not necessary to provide this. More importantly, there's no headline to say what he is. Now, he's a chief financial officer. At the beginning of your resume, it's often a good idea, and mostly a good idea, to put your headline, chief financial officer, so that people know that that's what they're reading. Now, he's put his qualifications in at the beginning of the resume. Now, at this stage of his career, I think that qualifications should be near the end, because at the end of the day, he's not selling his qualifications. He's selling his expertise, his experience, and his achievements. Now, the professional profile section of his resume is quite generic. It's full of buzzwords. It's too long. And the skills section of his resume is not necessarily aligned with the requirements of the kinds of roles that he's interested in. And this section of your resume, skills and expertise, call it what you will, should always be directly related to the requirements of the job and should be adjusted every time you apply for a different job, so that, first of all, if the employer or the recruitment firm is using applicant tracking systems, this section will help get through the applicant tracking system if the skills section is aligned with the requirements of the role. You'll also notice that he's included leisure interests, typically not relevant. In this case, it's really the financial markets that could be relevant, but at the end of the day, it's not a key sales point. And if you're going to include leisure or external or outside interests in your resume, put them at the end and make sure they're relevant to the kinds of jobs that you're applying for. For example, if you're applying for a senior role in a wine manufacturing company, then and you've got wine tasting or wine appreciation as one of your interests, then sure, that's relevant. Now, looking at the person's current job, there's just not very much information about what he's done. There's no indication of the significance or impact of what he's contributed. There's no indication of why he was hired or what challenges the company was facing that he was hired to address or resolve. And these are important aspects or things to include in your resume because it gives the reader a context. And giving the reader a context enables them to understand the significance and impact of your achievements. Now, the previous job, which he had for a longer time, he talks about what the company does, but doesn't really talk about what the challenges, issues, and problems facing the company. And CFOs are usually hired to help organisations solve problems, overcome challenges, address issues, and so on and so forth, and also to capitalise on opportunities. So there's too much emphasis in his resume on his responsibilities and duties, and the reader of your resume already knows what a chief financial officer does, and so there's no need to educate the reader. Where you need to educate the reader is in your achievements. Now, in some of these achievements, the significance and impact of what he did is not clear. The achievement section is far too long, and he doesn't really talk about the real value that he's added. So if, for example, established best practice in corporate governance and reporting, et cetera, the question then is, so what? What happened as a result? What was the benefit? What was the impact? Yeah. So that's really important to include. Redesigned, developed the daily batch balance scorecard, etc. The question then is, well, what happened as a result? What was the significance? Always delivered accurate monthly and yearly financials. Well, that's the job. That's what you're supposed to do. No external audit variances. How did he achieve that? Recruiting and mentoring and retaining staff, leading the finance department through. See, this one's an interesting one. Leading the department through restructures, system upgrades, new implementation projects. Question there becomes, well, how did he overcome some of the objections and challenges and resistance that might have occurred? Because whenever you try to change anything, people are going to say, well, I don't really want to change that. And I'd really prefer to keep going the way we are. Now, one of his key achievements is that he played a significant role in driving sales growth and enabling the company to grow from 111 million to a $150 million company. Now, that achievement should really go at the front because that's the biggie. Now, the other achievements, again, the question is, well, what was the difference? What was the value? And what was the significance? And this applies to the previous roles, group financial controller, always delivered within strict reporting timeframes. Well, that's you're supposed to do that. Assisted the MD and the CFO in a number of acquisitions. Well, what was the nature of the assistance? If you're going to say you assisted something or were instrumental in something or helped something or someone, then, well, what was your role? What was the impact that you had in relation to these acquisitions, and what kind of growth? What level of growth? Was it 5%, 1%, 29%? We don't know. Recruited and mentored, value adding, that's not really a team. That's not really an achievement. That's part of your job, and so on. So those were the main issues. Now, just wanted to point out at the end of his resume, he said references will be available on request. Now, that's obvious. You don't need to include that. Every person applying for any job will inevitably have to provide references. So either provide them in the document or don't. But you don't need to say they're available on request, because that's a given. Now, if you are going to provide referees or referees in your resume, then make sure you brief your referees in advance so that they know the type of job that you're interested in, and they also know the kind of organization, they know the requirements of the organization, and they also get an understanding, or give them an understanding of what they are looking for, and if any issues have occurred whilst you are in the selection process. So bear that in mind. Now, the problem with including referees in your resume is that you often can't control, most of the time you can't control whether the referees will be contacted before you've had a chance to brief them. So bear that in mind. Okay, so now let's have a squiz at what this transformation of Daniel's resume looks like. Now, you'll see, first of all, the look and feel of the document is crisper, it's cleaner, it's more modern, it's easier to read. It's at the same time, it's still easy to edit by the client. There's no sort of fancy graphics. It's a straightforward Microsoft Word document. There are no sort of crazy graphics or columns or hairy stuff that only a super user of Microsoft Word. And that's very important, because we don't want to have situations where clients mess up their documents. Now, you'll see that there's a headline at the beginning which says Chief Financial Officer. Okay, I'm reading about a CFO who's worked in diverse industries and complex enterprises. And the point of the first part of his resume is to give the reader an understanding of what they are likely to get should they hire this person. So he's got 20 years, he's got CPA, privately owned businesses, big divisions of complex multinationals. He's had experience in manufacturing, distribution, supply chain, building materials, etc., etc. So it gives the reader a snapshot of his background. And he says he's improved operations, reduced costs, identified new revenue streams, embedded acquisitions, and so forth, delivered challenging profit and cash flow targets in difficult economic environments. And he's explained in brief how he's been able to do that. So all of these are valuable attributes and experiences that make him an ideal fit for the kinds of roles that he was seeking. Now, the areas of expertise section is aligned with the kinds of experience, skills, expertise, and so on that are required in the kinds of jobs that he's interested in pitching for. Now, the descriptions of each role start with, well, first of all, it talks about what the company was and what it did, and then it talks about his mandate, what it is that he was required to do, why he was appointed to the job. Now, the achievements area of his resume talks about the impact and significance of the achievement demonstrated there added substantive value. It's also clear how he achieved what he achieved. And we've talked about some of the business and commercial challenges that the company was facing and how he overcame them. And this is important because it demonstrates that he can overcome obstacles and solve complex problems, attributes that every employer wants in their CFO or any other senior executive role for that matter. So as a result of this transformation of his resume, he was invited to far more interviews for the kinds of organizations he wanted to work with. And as a result of being invited to more interviews, he was able to secure a couple of very, very good offers, and he ended up accepting one of those, whereas previously he was finding it difficult to penetrate. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this discussion of the transformation of this particular person's resume. And if you find this interesting, if you find this useful, if there are some takeaways, which I hope there are, that's fantastic. And if you think that there's anyone else out there that you know that might find some value in having a look at this transformation, forward the video link to them. Thanks very much for listening and watching, and you take care.